I think if you want to know what's wrong with capitalism and how peer-to-peer is kind of an improvement over it, you have to look at the history of motivation and the history of cooperation. Pre-modern societies before capitalism were based on coercion, force, and a slave had to give everything and a serf had to give half or more of what he produced. And the genius of capitalism is to say, well, instead of forcing you, why don't we create mutual self-interest, and you will just exchange equal value with each other. And in a way that's a great progress, because you go from outside negative motivation, fear, to positive motivation, but still from the outside. But the problem with that is if you don't have money, if you don't have positive motivation from the outside, you don't do it. And also the problem is that if you have a system based on self-interest, then I will look at my interest, you will look at your interest, but nobody looks at the outside. Nobody looks at pollution, nobody looks at getting things for free which should be paid, and nobody wants to do anything which isn't paid. Furthermore, if you think at how innovation works in a company, it's always relative. You want to innovate and improve because you want to be better than the competition. If you don't have competition because it's a monopoly, for example, you don't improve. Think about Explorer. I think it's about 5 to 7 years, nothing much moved because Netscape was dead. Now think about a peer production effort like Firefox. These people want to innovate, not just to be better than the other guy, they just want to permanently make the best possible browser that's available, because Firefox doesn't have to protect its property rights. Anybody can add a plugin. So Firefox is moving all the time. It's improving all the time. So the genius of peer-to-peer is that it filters out negative outside motivation, positive outside motivation, and only it stays with voluntary, passionate production. And it does so by designing the project so that your individual interest in improving something corresponds with the value of everybody, because everything you improve for yourself becomes part of the whole project, and the whole project is accessible to the whole of humanity, which has access to the network. So when you put a for-profit company that has to compete with a for-benefit institution, like the Mozilla Foundation, which can draw on a whole community of voluntary programmers, the for-profit company is bound to lose a competitive game. So I think in those ways you can see how peer production is an improvement over the kind of for-profit mode. Now, this being said, I also believe that if you have two for-profit companies competing with each other, the one that opens up, that uses participation and commons-oriented approaches will do better than the one that doesn't. And that means that for-profit companies are adopting peer-to-peer practices. If you turn that around and you have two communities, one working completely isolated, and the one saying, we can collaborate with companies and create an open environment, that second one will also be stronger than the first one. So what that points to is that peer production and for-profit are not antagonistic. They're complementary in many ways. But I still would argue that peer production is post-capitalist, because it's not about commodities, it's not about wage relationship, it's not about producing for the market, with commodities and exchange value. So in many ways, if you do that, part of you is already outside of the market. You're learning to do things differently than out of pure self-interest in a market.